The following is a podcast from Talk Radio 970 KSYL.
It's Central Louisiana's original Talking Heads, Talkback 970, with Matthew Dunn and Jim Leggett. Give us a call at 442-TALK. That's 442-8255. Here's Talkback 970 with Matt and Jim.
And once again, we say good morning to you on this gorgeous Tuesday morning. And if it's the second Tuesday of the month, it always brings in one of our favorite people, a very special guest. Since 1999, he's been the mayor of the town north of the river, Pineville, Louisiana, our good buddy Clarence Fields. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning. How are y'all?
We're doing fine. We're doing fine.
For our listening audience out there, if you don't hear anything clicking this morning,
he has been de-pinned.
I normally click a pin, so they provided me with a pin that I cannot. I guess you could say click, that you can hear it over the airways and everything.
I feel like, and I feel like it's so petty, but I feel like as the host of the show, I'm constantly correcting people. Like with Jim, I have to tell him I'm going to put a belt around his neck to keep it close to the mic, but he's been better lately. And then
I've been eating the mic.
With Rod, your counterpart on Tuesdays, with Rod, I have to tell him to stop wiggling around in the chair like this. And I'm doing a little shimmy right now because Rod gets excited and kind of goes back and forth with the chair. So everyone's got their own thing.
While we're in the correction mode,
So for me,
Pineville is a city. There are cities, towns, and villages. And
what did I say? Town?
Town. And probably, it's probably, he wants to be a city. New Orleans is a city. Pineville's a city.
Fair enough, and I appreciate the correction.
Yeah, actually, for information out there, a city exists when you get 5,000 residents and above. So we're kind of well above that, but.
I stand corrected, sir.
Oh, no problem.
I think of a town more as a figure of speech, but yes.
Right, it is, because, I'm going to be out of town tomorrow. Well, I'm really out of the city.
I guess some people will consider us as a sleepy little town. And
a lot of great things going on in Pineville. Before you get to the agenda and before we start on what you came here to discuss, I got to get your opinion. Obviously, late last week, and we had Jim Clinton on from CLETA to discuss the big tax exemption story with Procter & Gamble. And I know that is that technically in Pineville or is it Ball?
Well, it's not in either one of our communities from a standpoint of it's outside of our corporate limits, both of us. It really is. And I'm glad I was going to bring that subject up, obviously, because CLETA held a press conference at City Hall the other day, which was really necessary, where people could get information. And let me say this, for us, for Pineville, it being not in our corporate limits, and I'll tell you, we, particularly now that we are into our budget process, I can tell you for years, we always, we look at the idea of going to Procter & Gamble and say, look, let's sit down and have some conversation. How about y'all coming into our corporate limits and all the above? And to be very honest with you, we have not approached that. We with the way the market is and the way everything is, you dare create anything that might give them the impression or affect their bottom line to some extent or whatever. And someone might say, well, for the city of Pineville, it would be great for us from a revenue. We're right now, we're struggling from a revenue perspective. And when you talk about sales taxes and things of that nature, and obviously but they mean much more to us than being in our corporate limits, the impact that they have on us. And that's where I think people sometimes, even though of the entities that are having the opportunity, because obviously of the legislation created or the governor giving local communities the ability to be able to make some decisions when it comes to things like tax exemptions or whatever. To some extent, we don't have a dog in that hunt, because they're not inside our corporate limits. We don't reap the benefits relative to property taxes and some other things. But it goes much farther than that, and I can tell you statistically of all of the people that work in Procter & Gamble, the almost 600 individuals that work at Procter & Gamble, the impact when it comes to rooftops, the impact when it comes to families, incomes, and things of that nature, the moms and pops, and we all become selfish to some extent or whatever, whether, whatever entity we are in that, whether it's the school board, whether it's the police jury, whether it's us, as to the revenues that we receive from the existence of companies like that. But the bottom line is that we really can't be selfish, and that's why I said the other day we need to really communicate much more when it comes to issues of this nature, because of the impact that it has on the entire all of the communities, the region, and all the above. And we need to put all of that information together and make a decision. I told someone the other day I have the opportunity to work with 5 city council members, and each one of those represent 3,200 to 35 individuals in each one of their 5 districts. They could be selfish enough where they will only do things, vote on things that's will have an impact on their particular district and the constituents that they or they could be political, for lack of better words, and only be concerned about those 32 to 3,500 individuals who voted them into office. But luckily, they look at the big picture, that what's going to impact Pineville as a whole, and they make decisions. And I can honestly say this: they make decisions based upon what's best for all of the people in the city of Pineville. In that, it may impact their district or the people that they serve in some way that may be detrimental or something of that nature. But those are the decisions that you have to make. I think that's where we have to look at all of the facts, all of the figures, and look at the real impact and make decisions for all of us here in this parish or region or whatever it may be.
Well, you said there were 600 people that work at Procter & Gamble.
Yeah.
I thought you were going in this direction, but you didn't. And I don't know if you know the answer. Do you know how many of those 600 or 600 families live in Pineville?
No, I do not.
Okay, I was wondering if there's any kind of breakdown.
Here's what I will tell you. I can remember. And here's the other thing that's sometimes said. Well, they're not going anywhere. Okay, they're here. They're not. That's not. Look at IP. Look at GE General. Look at Dresser. Look at the downsizing of Pinecrest. The huge downsizing of Central. Look at UP Long Medical Center. For instance, at Procter & Gamble, if they do, and Jim, you say how many live in Pineville, we don't know, but I can imagine how many for sale signs would go up if they left.
Yeah. Right.
Not only in Pineville,
I was just wondering
but elsewhere.
if there was any demographic checking on that.
The other thing that I think people lose sight of, and we talked about this on Friday too,
right,
is the ripple effect. Plastipac is not here if P&G isn't here. Calvary is not here if P&G isn't here. Or if they are here, it is so scaled down, and you're talking about the elimination of jobs there. So really, you go beyond the 600 jobs, you're really talking over 1,000 when you include the other companies.
Well, when you look at Procter & Gamble alone, talking about the 600 employees, almost 600 they currently have, with the expansion of 25, 26 more employees, the Plastipac Calvary industry, really in temporary jobs, construction jobs, because they are always expanding. They're always doing something at that particular plant. Probably Plastipac and Calvary Industries will not exist if they leave. Right. Because, obviously they are the support system for Procter & Gamble. But the other part about that, also imagine even though sometimes it causes us heartaches, it's a good heartache. I don't, it's the only way I know to put it. The trucking industry. The trucking industry will be impacted greatly because, in that particular, industrial park, there's trucking that goes on relative to transportation, whether it be for Procter & Gamble, whether it be for Calvary Industries, whether it be for Plastipac and some of the. Now, the other missing piece of this puzzle also that we tend to forget, there are some small businesses or some small people that are having opportunities to probably do some kind of business with, Plastipac or with Procter & Gamble. We don't even know who they are, and we don't count them, but they get hurt also. So it's a ripple effect that, I know we are concerned about, the tax dollars and the revenues or whatever. Perfect example, and I have to use this, and I thought about this more, was, we currently have Lowe's. Lowe's, that was quite an endeavor, and Rich played a great part in that, in getting Lowe's to locate here. Now, I think people are enjoying, Lowe's being in that complex that it's in now, not only here in Pineville, but elsewhere in central Louisiana, and particularly coming from the north and the Colfax area elsewhere, and being able to do business at Lowe's that otherwise would not have been there had not some for lack of better words, deals been made to get them here. But for the most part, that was crafted where Lowe's had some promises that they needed to keep, and they have to keep to be able for us to have given them some of what we were able to offer them to get them to locate here. One, but most importantly, they made they made a decision that here's what we can do, here's how many jobs we can have, here's what our as far as our production is going to be, over the years. And they're keeping that promise. And, as long as you keep that promise, and we'll keep our promise, and we'll keep you where you are.
Yeah. The thing that and Rick Ranson, former Alexandria city councilman, who's now with CLECO, called in and weighed in on this on Friday as well. And Rick talked about, the fact that the Procter & Gamble, I'm going to say I know it's not in the corporate limits of Pineville, but to me it's in Pineville, pardon the pun. Right. So that facility out there competes with other P&Gs all over the country. And if they don't come up with their numbers, people don't realize they can easily move.
Yeah. And it may not be today. It may not be 5 years from now. It may be 10 years from now. But the impact if it ever happens, will have a great impact on it. Speaking of that, that's the other piece of the puzzle that a lot of people won't see. There is a huge facility in Utah that Procter & Gamble has. There is another huge facility that I think has just been completed. I think it's on the East Coast somewhere, West Virginia, somewhere like that.
Right.
Now, also imagine this too. And I feel for those poor folks who in Brockville, those poor folks in Augusta, Georgia, they're feeling probably the same way we would feel, because those facilities closed down, and the operations of those facilities and what they were producing moved to Pineville, Louisiana.
Well, they have the masters. They can live with it. We can't, so.
Yeah. But it's a far more reaching, and there's competition within the company.
Sure.
It's all about who has the best employees to produce the product that they need to get produced, and how efficient they do that. So it's competition from plant to plant to keep the business that they currently have.
Let's see if this phone call held on. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, guys. And Mayor, thank you for taking my call. I'm
sure
glad you've got Lowe's here, someone north of the river. I hope y'all get a Chick-fil-A soon. But on the question you were discussing, at UPS, we give discounts to bigger customers, because we're private. We can do whatever we want to do. But as a government entity, especially someone with so much experience, I don't even remember. I have vague memories of Mayor Baden, but when I think of Pineville, I think of you. And so over all those years, has it been your experience that it's more beneficial to the citizens you represent in Pineville to work to make the business environment lucrative or favorable for the startup businesses, or for the big businesses, or for the medium size? What do you target, or have you had any of your staffers do research on that to see what's the best place to put your limited resources? And I'll hang up and listen to you.
Yeah. Well, what we try to do, we listen to people and what their expectations of it. Yeah. You mentioned Chick-fil-A and, other things. We hear those kinds of things all the time. We don't necessarily gear our efforts toward, big business, small business. We gear our efforts toward, what we can conceivably, have a chance at getting here. But, it's tough for us by ourselves to get a company in like Procter & Gamble, but the small boxes, the empty boxes that we have now, we're working hard to get something, in those small boxes, Kmart, places like that. And it's tough, restaurants and things of that nature, and it makes it very tough. So, we're wearing many different hats and trying to get, many different businesses here, but looking at what fits Pineville and what our people, would like to see. Everybody has their own dreams, and a lot of those dreams we can't fulfill because we in our heart know that certain entities, certain businesses or whatever are not going to locate here. But our efforts are to keep what we currently have here. There's no doubt about it, particularly small businesses. And if we can play a part in it, particularly large businesses like, CLECO and Procter & Gamble and things of that nature, what I can tell you, you can remember some of the big hoopla about CLECO or whatever. Just imagine part of that operation having moved south where all the growth is going on in the Covington, Mandeville area, whatever. We had great concerns about that. So then we have to shift our efforts, not that we have that much say-so, and, just having conversation and looking for ways to entice, whether it's the small businesses, others to remain here in Pineville and Central Louisiana. So it's tough. I tell you, it's really tough. It's tough when you don't have anything to, excuse the expression, play with.
Well, and
we
it's,
don't have much to
it's
offer.
a team effort too.
Oh, absolutely.
You join in with public and private sector, and one economic development agency that people really forget about is the England Authority, which has parish-wide jurisdiction.
Correct.
So
yes.
they might be finding something in Forest Hill or Pineville or wherever. It doesn't have to be on the grounds of the former England Air Force Base.
I think another one that's become important because it's encompassing a lot of the business on the north side of the river, and that's the NRBIA, the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance. That's important too because you're getting a lot of individuals, particularly from the business world, together and having conversation, about what their businesses are doing, what their needs are, and how we can best help them be successful at what they do.
Before we go to break, I just want to let you know that everyone in Alexandria who lives in Alexandria also wants Pineville to get a Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Just you would thought they were giving that stuff away.
Boy, I tell you,
Good
the lines
God.
I have seen, and we can support that. But here again, all the pieces of the puzzle has to come together when you are courting, or whether it's a small business or things of that nature or whatever. And, likewise, it hurts when businesses pack up and leave.
You guys are going to have to, if you guys get a Chick-fil-A, and I assume they go to one of two areas, probably 28 or Edgewood or something like that. You guys are going to have to invent like a Chick-fil-A lane. So I want you to know that that's coming there. We're overdue for our first break of the second hour. We'll be right back, and we'll start the agenda with Mayor Fields. Get your phone calls in, 442-8255.
Talk Radio 970, KSYL. Give us a call at 442-TALK. That's 442-8255. Let's get back to the talk on KSYL 970 and in high definition on 100.3 HD3.
Welcome back into Talkback. We are joined, it's Matt and Jim. As always, we're joined by Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. Before we get back into the agenda, let's take 3 phone calls have popped up. Good morning. You are on with the mayor.
Morning.
Hey, this is Larkin Simpson with Cleta.
Hey, Larkin.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's Mr. Clinton, by the way?
He's doing well.
Good. Great.
Talked to him earlier, Mayor, and he's doing well. He hopes to be back in the office this afternoon.
Great. Good.
You can't keep a good man down.
No, you can't keep a good man down. But we were having some conversation, obviously, about the Procter & Gamble issue, and just talking about the impact here in Central Louisiana, not just Pineville, but the impact in itself.
Yes, sir. Well, one of the things we talked about last night at the police jury vote was that in '69, when this plant came in, they hired about 200 people, and so then in 2004, when they made the investment to introduce the pod line, they added about they went to about 400.
Correct.
And so now P&G is right under the 600 threshold, and that's just P&G employees. So then you think about it, and they've got distribution, logistics, all the other lines that P&G has contracts with that are not, air quote, under the P&G umbrella. So they've got about another 400 people that they're employing through these contracts. So, P&G has about 1,000 folks right there. That's not including Plastipack and the other suppliers to this plant. So they have a far-reaching impact in this area, and that's why, doing something like this for P&G is so crucial, and why it makes such a big impact.
That's why too, forgive me for interrupting, Mayor, that's why everyone should hope that the school board votes the right way tonight.
Well, and when Rick Ranson called in, he made this point that it's not new money, or it is new money down the road.
Right.
There's nothing new about this. Nobody's losing anything.
Right.
Yes, yes, sir. So what you're doing is P&G has made the investment, and it's taxes that could come. And so, what you're saying is, all right, when these taxes do go on the tax rolls, we agree that this is such a major investment for us, and we want to support P&G. We want to be good stewards and good partners, that we're going to forego some of this money up front for the first 5 years. But in year 6, we're going to collect a little bit of that money.
Right, exactly.
And then in year 8, we're going to collect all of our money back. So, or all of our money, I'm sorry. And so that's what you're doing, is you're saying, all right, we like you enough, P&G, that we see this as such a good thing for us that we want to partner in you with this investment, and we're willing to forego a little bit of the revenue we should see because we know this is such a good thing, and we know y'all are going to keep investing year after year after year.
Yeah, and what people don't realize too is that we are already collecting some monies, and so and here's another factor, and this is where unfortunately in the business in the world that we live in relative to economic development and some of the things we are privy to prior to some things going down, nobody would really realize that Procter & Gamble actually shut the dry detergent market went to Mexico. They actually shut down a line because of and a lot of this people also need to understand when people say, well, they're not going anywhere. It's market driven and it's consumer driven and it's performance at those particular plants. So that dry market went to Mexico not very long ago. Fortunately for us, as far as we're knowledgeable of, those employees that were connected to that dry market remain as we speak at Procter & Gamble based on the fact of this expansion project that's ongoing.
I just got a Facebook message here before you continue, Larkin and Mayor Fields. I just got a Facebook message here, and it says, as for what the current caller is saying, they have more than just P&G. They have Billfinger, Manpower, Deloche LLC. He says, I may as well kiss my job goodbye as a vendor that I serve if they move out.
Exactly. Yeah, the small vendors and people of that, we don't realize the impact that the far-reaching impact that it could potentially have. So to give a little bit to be in the ball game, I think is very important, particularly in the world that we live in today. I mean, everybody's trying to get whatever they can and or pick off the best of the best. And here's a perfect example of that. But we really appreciate CLETA has a role to play, and they play that role very well, Mr. Clinton and you folks, and that's important. And everybody has a responsibility in this, different responsibilities, and that's why I say communication is so vital in sharing what those responsibilities are and come to a common goal as to what needs to be done to do what our people expect us to do, particularly from a governmental standpoint.
Mayor, I think you're exactly right. I want to make this point that I don't think has been put out there. I was in Cincinnati with P&G's corporate folks with the fabrics line in North America, and I met the new plant manager that's coming in and all of that. And so what we do is the Alexandria Pineville plant competes with Lima, Ohio.
Right.
The Lima, Ohio pods line, that division in that plant is bigger than our entire plant.
Yeah.
And so when people look at this and they say, oh, P&G is not going to close its doors. They're not just going to up and build another factory somewhere else, yada, yada, yada. They don't have to. They've already got it built. And so when you're looking at the books and you say, okay, I've got a project and I'm going to invest $45 million. And this project, if I do it in Lima, Ohio, is going to cost me $5 million. And I do it in Alexandria or Pineville, Louisiana, and it's going to cost me $10 million. You're going to go from a cost saving standpoint with the $5 million because you can do more with that money.
Right.
And so that's the thing where, we're not expecting that, they don't get this incentive or this exemption that they're going to close the doors immediately. They won't be locked up Monday morning.
Yeah.
But year after year after year of saying, hey, we don't want you to be productive here in Pineville. Then, time after time, when every project that goes keeps going to Ohio, keeps going to Ohio, keeps going to Ohio, at some point you have to look at it and go, that Pineville plant's just not doing what it ought to do. Right. And the cool thing is, and the people at P&G told me this personally a couple weeks ago, this plant down here is outside of their logistics distribution. It's outside of their distribution channel. It really, if you look at a map of where all the plants are, This is kind of the one that's farthest south and just kind of sits out here in the middle of nowhere land.
Right.
But the thing is, every time this plant competes, it beats out everybody else.
Yeah.
They are so shocked by the people and the workforce and the work ethic that we have in Pineville that that's what keeps it competitive.
And
it's competitive from a cost standpoint, but our people are what drives us.
Larkin, we got to run, man. We're about to break, but thank you so much, really, for giving us a call. Very important.
Yeah, really
Yes,
is.
sir.
Thank you.
Glad to do it.
Thank you. That was Larkin Simpson with Cleta. We will be right back, and finally, we'll get into the mayor's agenda. We promise.
Give us a call at 442-TALK. That's 442-8255. Let's get back to the talk on KSYL 970 and in high definition on 100.3 HD3.
Welcome back to Talk Back with Matt and Jim as we are continue to be joined by Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. And finally, Mayor, time to get into the agenda.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
Well, you already covered the controversy, so you can skip over that if you want.
The city council meeting tonight. Really, there's only, I think, 4 items on the agenda. One of them will be interesting because it deals with rezoning of a piece of property on Highway 107 relative to the potential location of a Dollar General facility. So that will be handled in zoning commission relative whether or not to rezone a piece of a property to commercial or not or whatever for that particular reason. So and then it will go to the full council after the zoning commission's recommendation. So that will probably be the I guess big ticket item on the agenda. Everything else is pretty much I guess you could say minute as far as our agenda is concerned.
Now the zoning commission does that go to the city council tonight too, or
exactly. Yeah,
no,
the zoning. Yeah, it was introduced on last month by and sent to the zoning commission by the city council, and then the zoning commission does their due diligence over the 30-day period, and then they come back and have a zoning commission meeting where individuals get the opportunity to to talk about this particular issue, pros and cons to the fact of rezoning a piece of property, whatever the piece of property is going to be, what's being asked for it to be rezoned. Actually, our full city council, all of our city council members, actually, none of them serve on the zoning commission, obviously, but they sit in the room and listen to the dialogue. So when the zoning commission completes their responsibilities and make whatever recommendation that they then make to the city council is well versed and abreast of the situation, and then they can appropriately after they go through the public hearing and listening to people pro or con or whatever.
Dollar General is the fastest growing retailer in the country right now. As you've probably noticed, they're springing up all over the place when they used to be. But I know that we were thrilled in the Garden District. We don't have many retail stores in the Garden District. And so we were thrilled when it came. Of course, you're thrilled if you get in and out of there without getting robbed. But anyway, go ahead, Mayor.
Well, yeah, and I think that's part of the issue, too. What will he create on that particular corridor? But I think the whole issue is going to be, probably the corridor itself and the commercialism of it or whatever. So, it's a tough job for the zoning commission to make whatever recommendation they might make, and then the city council make that recommendation based upon facts. So that's what they'll be looking at on this evening at the 6 o'clock. The actual zoning commission meeting begins at 5:30, and then the council meeting obviously begins at 6 o'clock itself. Other than that, that's all that's really going on as far as the city council meeting on this evening. We actually started about a week ago our budget process. What we generally do in our budget process in our 17, 18 different divisions that we have throughout the city. I think I've explained this before. And a lot of people may think that, the mayor presents the budget to the council, for adoption by July 1st, which is when our budget year, fiscal year begins. But we actually go through a process where each individual leader in their divisions have the opportunity to present their own budgets because who else more so know what their needs are. And so we will go through that for about a month. By the end of this month, we will have completed all of our budget process, looked at all the numbers, line item by line item, and then we will begin to make decisions based upon revenue and based upon needs as to what kind of budget we will present to the council. it's going to be tough. I have to, we are experiencing, we kind of got surprised a bit. We thought pensions had kind of settled a bit. We're going to get really hit hard again. The municipal employee retirement system pension numbers went up from 13.25% to 14%. Doesn't sound like a lot. The biggie, though, is the municipal police retirement system went up 2.5%. We'll get hit really hard there, and that was not expected. We got those numbers about 3 weeks ago, through PERSAC, that those were going up. And then our health insurance went up 19.3%. That's a huge number. And so those are some of the things that we're going to have to deal with. And obviously one of the things we've been struggling with for the most part, and, we go back and we talked about, the Procter & Gamble's economic development, creating sales tax and things of that nature. Our sales tax are still down, and by year end, our sales tax are probably going to be less than what we projected, less than what we actually took in on the last fiscal year. Obviously, that creates problems because inflation and people's needs and all the above, that has not gone down. So we'll have to make some tough decisions, and I can tell you in the upcoming year or so we'll make some other decisions. We're looking for revenue, the ways to increase our revenue to continue to provide the services that we provide, and we have that responsibility. It'll create some heartaches down the road, but it's necessary. Yeah.
How do you think, before we take our next break, how do you think, and I know that you're in constant contact with whether it's Representative Hall, Representative Hazel, right, Senator Luno, Representative Harris, and so forth. How do you feel that the regular session is going so far from a municipal standpoint?
From a municipal standpoint, thus far, I got a report. I chair the legislative committee for the Louisiana Municipal Association. It's going fairly well. You got to remember, unfortunately, excuse my expression, all hell can break loose in the last week or so of
all hell will break loose.
Yeah. From not a fiscal standpoint, but from a standpoint of things that might get dropped or whatever that might get handed down to local government, and much more is being mandated to local government. The missing piece of the puzzle, which is impacting and will impact us because we don't know, particularly in the budget process that we're in now, the special session, what's going to happen to the deficit that they're dealing with. And when they do make those decisions, whatever they may be, how is it going to impact us in that we will have already, for lack of better words, produced our budget. And then we'll have to go back and look at some other things if it doesn't go the right way, obviously. So, but overall right now, it's going well for us from a municipal standpoint, but that could all change tomorrow.
Let's take a break, and we'll be right back. Caller, give us a call back towards the end of this break, and we'll take your phone call right when we come back. Stay tuned. More with Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields on the way.
Talk Radio 970, KSYL. Give us a call at 442-TALK. That's 442-8255. Let's get back to the talk on KSYL 970 and in high definition on 100.3 HD3.
Welcome back into Talkback as we continue our discussion with Pineville Mayor Clarence Fields. Real quickly, because I've gotten some feedback, I am pro-business all the way. If Pineville wants another Dollar General, by all means, I'm rooting for it to happen. That's going to be for Pineville, obviously their council, your council mayor to decide. But I don't want it to come across like I'm against Dollar General locating anywhere. It's a commercial versus residential sort of dispute or debate, if you will. And so, but that's the case. I can tell you, it's the only store of substance, Jim. You can attest to this being a Garden District resident in Alexandria, to where you don't have to drive more than 5-10 minutes to get somewhere. Yeah. So I utilize it all the time, especially on my way home from work.
I go back to one further thing. Whatever decision is made and however it's made, I hope it's made on the basis of what's best for that particular area, and looking at the commercialism of it and things of that nature or whatever. And it's a decision that the council will have to make, including myself. And
right,
it's not what we want. It's looking at it and being clear as to how you do this and do it in a fair way. I'm going to, in all of what I do and try to do over the past 18 and 19 years, that's the way I've looked at things. I've not looked at whether or not you're Democrat or Republican.
Sure.
I've not looked at whether you're black or white. I've not looked at whether you're rich or poor. I've looked at facts, and I've looked at what I think might be best, along with others, in making decisions that we make. And that's the way I'll continue to do things.
I know you haven't thought about this. In fact, I know you probably haven't thought about this because you don't think this way. And this has nothing to do with what I'm about to say, but one could make the argument, Jim, I'll take it kind of from me and you here. One could make the argument you are the most successful African-American elected official from Central Louisiana in the history of the state.
Oh, please.
No, you are. You have been in office since 1999.
I am not perfect. I have a responsibility to people. I have a responsibility to all people. Same thing on, it's not unlike this Procter & Gamble issue or whatever. It's what's best, and that's how I'm looking at it. One thing I can say that I owe no one anything. No one can, say, well, I did this for you or I gave you that. Ain't gonna happen, never will happen. I can sit here and honestly say that and feel very good about saying that, and sleep on that issue at night and wake up the next morning and look at myself in the mirror. So, that's just the way, I try to do things, and we try to do things at best.
Do you have a quote on that, Jim? Do you have a line about that?
I can't. What? I have one.
You were nodding your head.
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
Okay. All right, we're going to take one final break and be right back to wrap it up with the mayor. I tell you what. Let's take this very quick phone call. Good morning. You're on with Mayor Fields.
Hey, Mighty Matt and Big Jim.
Oh,
Cornelius, what's up, man?
How you are there, man?
I'm doing fine.
You've been missing in action again.
But anyway, Mayor Fields, I wanted to tell them something that's a secret to yours and a secret to all our successes, whether you be white, black, rich, or poor. It's your guidance from God.
Oh,
That's the key to you, Mr. Mayor. I know you're a godly man, you and your wife and your kids and grandkids, because I know you put God first.
Yeah.
Anybody put God first, that's how you can get things done and everything. And I'm so proud of you, Mayor. Like I said, you're progressive Pineville. I hope P&G stays. I hope everybody votes to keep them here instead of running them off to somewhere else, because they need that tax break. And like I said, God. I can tell that you're a godly man and stuff, and that's the reason why he's successful, Matt.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and believe me, I have to ask God for forgiveness sometime, and for help, but
it's only been one perfect man.
I also recognize when God says you're on your own on this one, So anyway.
I ain't got time for this. You're on your own.
We'll be right back to wrap it up with Mayor Fields. Stay tuned.
Talk Radio 970 KSYL. Give us a call at 442-TALK. That's 442-8255. Here we go. Back to the show on KSYL 970 and in high definition on 100.3 HD3.
Welcome back. Final segment with Mayor Fields. If you have a quick phone call, fire away 442-8255. Mayor?
Yeah, let me go through some things that are coming up. This coming Sunday, the Historical Association of Central Louisiana is having the annual meeting and picnic at the historic Rapide Cemetery. That's this coming Sunday, April the 15th. Everything really begins at 2 o'clock with a picnic lunch and ends with the program ending at 4 p.m. And just in case the weather is not cooperating, everything would be potentially moved to the Pineville Main Street Community Center. But thus far, it looks like the Sunday will be a great day for that particular event.
Great.
On Saturday, April the 28th, there will be the what's called the Louisiana Fly-In. That's hosted by the EAA Chapter 614 over at Belo Airport. A lot of great things going on there. That will be April the 28th, beginning at 10 a.m. in the morning and culminating at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And then over at Fort Randolph and Fort Bulow on May the 24th, from 10 a.m. to I think it's 7 p.m. will be the Fiesta de Mayo. That will be Saturday from 10 to 7 p.m. at Fort Randolph and Fort Buell. Ought to be a great time. There's even a Chihuahua beauty contest that will be going on. So
please tell me you're a judge in that.
No.
Can we make Jim a judge in
that?
Yeah, make me a judge.
So
and line the barbecue pits.
Yeah,
up.
That's at Fort Randolph, Fort Buell. By the way, the annual Gary Grand Memorial Golf Tournament, and that's a lot of you will remember Gary Grand, but he was also a member of the Pineville Rotary Club. That golf tournament will be held, in conjunction with the Pineville Rotary Club as its host at Oak Wing Golf Club, and that will be on Friday, June the 1st. So for information, you can call our office or call one of the Rotary Club members for information as to how to enter and participate in the Gary Grand Memorial Golf Tournament. Obviously, the Rotary Club, in supporting of the many different venues that they support, I encourage folks to be involved in that. And then the Salvation Army is holding their volunteer appreciation dinner at Main Street Community Center on Thursday, April the 12th. That'll be at 6 p.m. And obviously that is to, recognize all of those who participate in the Salvation Army's Red Kettle Brigade during the holidays. So we're kind of looking forward to that. So a lot going on. Youth baseball opening ceremonies this coming, or Saturday, April the 14th, this coming Saturday.
Great. If you missed any or all of Mayor Fields' hour with us, check KSYL.com. Later in the day, we'll have it fully posted for you. For Mayor Fields and Jim Leggett, I'm Matthew Dunn. This has been a Sinlaw Broadcasting production of Talkback on KSYL. Have a great Tuesday, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Talkback 970. The views expressed were those of the host and callers, and not necessarily those of Sinlaw Broadcasting.